I was 19 years old at the time, and I loved camping since I was a child. One day, I decided to go camping alone in a forest, which is known as the Freetown State Forest, which is in Massachusetts. I decided to start hiking in the afternoon, and before I even realized, it had already become dark. So, I thought it would be a great idea to just stop and set up camp. After I set up my tent, I had a glass of wine and enjoyed the cool breeze and silence in the forest. I started feeling tired and sleepy, so I decided to call it a night and go to sleep. In the middle of the night, around 3 a.m., I suddenly woke up to some strange noises outside my tent. It sounded like multiple footsteps, as if they were running around my tent. At first, I just thought it could be a small animal, like a rabbit or something. So, I just ignored it, and I tried to go back to sleep. I woke up again, and I heard that the noises of those footsteps were getting closer to my tent every minute. The weird thing was that the amount of footsteps had increased. At this point, I started panicking, and I thought to myself that it could be multiple wild animals, like foxes or something, who were just trying to get into my leftover dinner. I was alone, and I didn't have any way to defend myself from these animals. Suddenly, the noises started fading away. It sounded as if whatever those animals were, I decided to go away from my tent. I felt relieved, and I thought that I could finally get some sleep. But I was wrong, and what happened next scared me so bad that I still have nightmares about it. I suddenly saw a pair of tiny hands pressed against my tent. I freaked out and covered my mouth before I could make any sound. The hands looked like they belonged to a child, but what would a child be doing in the middle of the forest after midnight? All of a sudden, there were multiple hands pressing against my tent from the outside. I started hearing children laughing and rubbing their hands against my tent. I got so scared, and I didn't know who they were and whether they were children or something completely demonic. I couldn't move at all, and before I knew it, I passed out. I woke up the next morning, and when I looked at my tent, there were no hands pressing against it. I thought that I might have had a nightmare or something. But when I got out of the tent, I saw something that made me realize that whatever happened last night was not a dream at all. My tent was surrounded by multiple footprints of children, and the strange thing was that the footprints did not have any trail that either led towards the forest or towards my tent. It was as if the footprints just appeared outside my tent out of thin air. I was terrified, so I just grabbed my bags and made a run for it, leaving behind my tent. I kept running until I reached my car. When I got into my car, I looked back one last time towards the forest, and I saw something so terrifying that I couldn't believe my eyes. I saw multiple children with black eyes and wide smiles hiding behind the trees, and they were just watching me and laughing. I drove back home, and I never went back to that forest again. I'm 25 years old today, and I still think about that night. What were those children doing in the forest? Who were those kids? Were they human at all, or were they something more evil than that? I'm happy that I didn't stay to find out.